Lewis Hart for The Ring Magazine. Delighted to be joined with The Ring Magazine's very own Mike Coppinger here in New York City. Hard Rock Cafe just had the grand arrivals. Face-off between Sheeraz and Berlanga. That was not the friendliest, I think it's fair to say. But Mike, first thing first, good to see you. How's things?
Yeah, everything great. We have a great fight card on Saturday. What I like about it is there's 4 really good fights, and I think there's going to be action fights too.
Yeah, as I say, we're first on the I guess the main event, Hamzah Sheeraz against Edgar Berlanga. A real interesting one. I think I've flip-flopped between the two. I guess, how do you see this fight playing out, especially when you see Fight Week and that intensity is brought between the pair of them?
It's truly a genuine coin flip fight. This fight really could go either way. The only thing I'm confident about with this fight is that it's not going to go the distance. I think Berlanga is a pretty good puncher, at least against limited opposition, and Sheeraz, same puncher against limited opposition. We have to see if those power carries to the top level. Obviously, the only samples we have is Sheeraz against Adames, never heard him, and obviously last fight at 160, so maybe the power and the weight was being affected there. And then Berlanga against Canelo. Berlanga never came close to really impacting Canelo. So
I guess when you look at the factors for Hamzah as well, how does it play a factor of a new weight, new trainer, in your opponent's city? How do you think he deals with that when it stacks up in that favour?
Surely it's a lot to deal with for Hamzah, but if Hamzah's what a lot of people want him to be and think he is, then he'll be ready for the task, I think. I think he has a good jab, he has pretty good footwork, and I think he's going to be a lot better at 168. You see how big he is. I don't know how he made 160, and once again, I think a lot of fighters in boxing are fighting at the wrong weights.
Yeah, and I guess when you do have a fight when you've got 2 punches like that, they can both sort of knock each other out. Do you think that plays into an exciting fight because you've got both guys who are wary of the power? They almost sort of collide head on in a sense. Do you think?
Yeah, I think Sheeraz is not going to stand there and be foolish and trade with Berlanga, especially on the inside. I think the fight for Sheeraz is to keep it long, use his jab, use his feet, and Berlanga is going to be pressuring and winging bombs in there.
Okay. I wanted to ask about Shakur Stevenson against William Zepeda. This is an interesting fight. The way it breaks down, especially you've got Shakur, who's obviously defensive master, against Zepeda, who's a pressure fighter. How excited, I guess, are you for this fight, and I guess the extra pressure on Shakur, you could say?
I'm excited for it. I think this style clash usually produces pretty good fights, and it's going to come down to 2 things. Can William Zepeda really assert himself in there, cut the ring off, and make it an ugly, rough, and tumble fight? And for Shakur Stevenson, he says it every fight. He's gonna punish the opponent. He never does. Yeah. Is he capable of it? Yes, I think he's a really good fighter. Great footwork, great jab. But this is boxing, this is showbiz. It's not enough to simply win. We're not asking for Shakur Stevenson to recklessly trade in there. We're saying if you have the guy hurt or if you have him in a good position, maybe throw a combination rather than one punch and move.
Yeah. So when he says on the stage there, he's bringing belt to arse and that, you not necessarily believe in that?
I want to believe him. I hope he's telling the truth. I want to see a good fight, and I think Shakur is capable of doing that if he tries. But in the past, we've heard it many times, and we've seen Shakur extended the distance by guys that really shouldn't be going the distance with him. Again, we're not saying that Shakur Stevenson should be standing there and fighting like Gotti Ward. Yeah, we're saying, that guys like Jeremiah Nakathila and Artem should not be going the distance with Shakur Stevenson if he asserted himself and sat down on his punches just a bit. Yeah,
there was actually something I wanted to ask you, and I've seen you put a few tweets about it. Obviously, I think a lot got misconstrued when Turkey Al-Sheikh was talking about the sort of Tom and Jerry fights, and people not really understanding what he meant by that. And a lot of people sort of directed that towards Shakur for his defensive style. I guess, what's your reaction to that? Because it's not necessarily like running in the ring, do you know what I mean? I guess sort of your thoughts on people sort of misinterpreting it, I guess.
It's definitely misinterpretation. There's a lot of nuance in boxing. You can have a great jab and box and move and use your speed and your footwork and your skills and still put on a good, entertaining fight. I think Floyd Mayweather's done it many, many times. Obviously, there were some fights where Floyd Mayweather didn't do that. But when I think of somebody running, I'm thinking of William Skull against Canelo, where you're making Canelo miss and you're not making him pay. That's the thing. The sport is hit and not get hit. So if you're not hitting, then to me, that's an issue. Yeah. No one wants to see that. This is entertainment at the end of the day. So if you're moving and you're making the guy miss and you're fighting a defensively minded fight, just when the guy misses, counter him and make him pay. Maybe throw a combination. Yeah. Not just one punch and then keep moving and then avoiding contact at all costs.
Yeah. Do you think Shakur comes under that Tom and Jerry style?
Absolutely. Let's call a spade a spade. Shakur Stevenson, the reason he's not in the main event on Saturday, let's face it, his last 2 main events, his own fans were walking out of the fights before they were over. Yeah. The fight with Edwin de los Santos was brutally awful to watch. I think it was CompuBox records, And, again, you have to put it, there's two guys in there. I'm not saying Shakur Stevenson's fully to blame, but that was a boring fight. That was a main event. And then you had the fight against Artem Hurricane, and that was an awful fight too. That was in New York. Fans were walking out. And this is not me giving an opinion. ESPN showed the fans walking out. There was booing during it. So again, I think the only reason we're so harsh maybe on Shakur Stevenson is we know how good and talented he is, and we just want to see him put it all together. And if William Zepeda does his part, because again, he has to do his part too, right?
Yeah.
He has to cut off the ring. He has to kind of fight like Marcos Maidana did against Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, to really have a chance to make this a fight.
Yeah, and essentially, like, let's, Turkey being the promoter, essentially when you do have your promoter sort of coming out and saying, look, I want more aggression, does that extra pressure on Shakur saying, like, you really need to deliver on Saturday?
I think
do you think he subconsciously knows that and it bottled, like, in a way?
Shakur Stevenson's no dummy. I think he knows that if you want to get opportunities, and again, in the U.S., we had this in the HBO era. HBO wasn't giving guys opportunities over and over and over just because they were winning. So when anyone who says it's just, all I have to do is win, that's not the case. The reason that guys like Canelo Alvarez make so much money is because they put on exciting fights. So again, I don't think Shakur Stevenson needs to be foolish. He doesn't have to take extra hits to the head. Certainly, we know this is a dangerous sport. We're just saying, stand your ground a bit, and if there's the opportunity there, take it.
Yeah, and just, I spoke to Shakur yesterday, and obviously the name Gervonta Davis got brought up, and we spoke about that. Do you think there's a world where that fight happens, especially sort of with Turkey's involvement on a Riyadh season platform? Or?
I think anything's possible in the sport of boxing, right? And with the money available and the desire from Turkey Al Sheikh to put on the best fights. But again, is Gervonta Davis going to want to fight Shakur Stevenson if it's a boring fight?
Yeah.
I think probably not. Gervonta Davis puts on action fights. That's why he's a big star. And are the fans going to be clamoring for Gervonta Davis against Shakur Stevenson if we don't get an exciting fight on Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So again, Shakur Stevenson, yes, he has to win, but he has to win in some sort of style.
Yeah. From your understanding, do you think? I know you reported that the rematch was happening with Roach on August 16th. Is that still the case? Obviously, there's no formal announcement from PBC.
I've heard there are some issues. Now, I believe the fight is going to happen. Could it move? Yeah, we see that a lot with PBC fights, where the fights move a few weeks, move a month. I think anything's possible there, but then nothing's finalized yet. And certainly when you're, almost 30 days out, you're about, we're about 45 days out right now. It's concerning that there hasn't been any formal announcement.
Yeah, no. Just before I did let you go, I did have to ask about the Fourth Ring magazine show in Saudi in November. We're not just saying this because we work for it, but it is really an amazing card. You've got Brian Norman Jr. against Devin Haney, Anthony Yard, David Benavidez against Anthony Yard. Bam Rodriguez against Puma Martinez, and then Abdullah Mason against Sam Noakes as well. So, we've got a real exciting card in November in Saudi.
It's an incredible card, and fans are always going to find something to complain about. I've seen fans saying now that Bam Rodriguez is being disrespected because he's fighting in the third fight of the night. I don't think he's being disrespected. I think for Bam Rodriguez, it's great exposure for him. He's one of the best talents in boxing, and he gets to fight on a stacked card. David Benavidez, I think, has a real chance to be the future face of boxing. Benavidez, great interview, great action, great fighter. Anthony Yard, look, it would be a big upset, but Yard has put on good performances in these kind of spots. He gave Beterbiev all he could handle. He gave Sergey Kovalev all he could handle as well. And Brian Norman and Haney. Again, Devin Haney, I'm a fan. Devin Haney always takes on tough challenges.
Yeah.
Yes, that was not the best performance, the best version of Devin Haney we saw against Jose Ramirez, but I think Devin Haney knows he has a lot to prove, and it's his first fight at the full-fledged weight of 147, taking on a big puncher. I think that's going to be an action fight. And you have to love Bam Rodriguez against Fernando Martinez.
Yeah, the one that really intrigues me, I think, for a lot of people, is Brian Norman Jr. Against Devin Haney. Obviously, he's come off the sensational knockout of Jin Sasaki. And yeah, do you feel like there needs to be more credit given to Haney, because this guy, like, no matter who it is, Kambosos 2 times in Australia, straight then to Lomachenko, then Prograis, like, he doesn't duck no smoke.
No, and again, the fight with Lomachenko, yes, a lot of people thought Lomachenko won. Either way you slice it, it was a fight that could have won either way. It was a great fight, great action fight. Devin Haney's a great body work in that fight. And Devin Haney is one of the biggest, most recognizable names in all of boxing. So I think it's a breath of fresh air. And if Devin Haney can beat Brian Norman in style, become a 3-division weight champion, everyone's going to forget about the Ryan Garcia fight and the fight against Jose Ramirez. Let's face it.
Yeah, but I guess with that as well, when you do sort of face a big puncher, do you think there is that lingering, almost sort of flashbacks to the Garcia fight when because you never really know until you get hit. And I think it's fair to say he didn't really get hit in the Ramirez fight to know that. So do you feel like Norman's the one to bring it out where we truly know, how much that Garcia fight affected Haney, I guess?
I think we're going to find out for sure, because Brian Norman's young, he's athletic, he's powerful, and he has no fear about winging that left hook.
Yeah.
I think this is a great style clash, and I really expect the fireworks in the ring.
Well, yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting one. I mean, I wish it was November already so we can see them fights. But no, Mike, always good to see you in New York. Appreciate you taking the time, and sure we'll be catching up soon.
Thanks, Lewis.
Cheers, mate.